We're there.
Okay, Dom, how would you like to start?
I think we should pray.
Let's do it.
All right, let me eat one more of this. I really feel the Holy Spirit through Brookside chocolate. Let me get this down the hatch. God, thank you for my best friend. Thank you for Brady. Thank you for the man that he is. The incredible gifts and talents that you've given him. The way that I've learned so much more about you than I knew before I knew him. I'm so thankful for that. I'm thankful that I just get to sit here and talk to him. Help there to be absolutely no pressure. Let us just be ourselves when we get behind these microphones. And thank you for the microphones. Thank you for the equipment. God, who are we to deserve these things, but you so freely give the resources to have them. And I don't want to take that for granted. And so thank you. Thank you for these microphones. Thank you for the equipment, for the cameras, microphones. God, as we sit behind these mics, I just ask that your voice can get heard. Not Dom's, not Brady's, but yours, God. And I ask that whoever might hear it can discern the difference from my voice, from Brady's voice, and your voice. God, we're not perfect, and we don't want to act like we are perfect. And so help us to speak in truths behind the mics. And I ask that healing and peace and love can be felt by whoever hears, whoever listens, God. And we trust that you're going to put the right ears on the other end. God, whoever needs to hear it, I just ask that you can make a way for them to hear it. God, we're not here for fame and glory, but we're here, first off, to teach each other more about you. God, I know Brady knows beautiful sides of you that I don't, and I think he would say the same thing. And so, God, help us to just share you with each other. And after that, God, whoever listens, help them to just feel how authentic we are. Let us be ourselves and just let that shine through the audio, through the camera. God, let you shine through us. Let us speak truly, freely, and just glorify your name. Glorify your name through everything that we do around these microphones, podcasts. God, whatever it brings, we trust you with it, and we're so thankful for it. It's in your name that we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Holy Spirit, fill the room. Let's go.
If you can't tell, Brady and I have sweet tooth. He's got the gummy bears. I got the dark chocolate. We're not sponsored. I don't know if I can show the brand. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know how that really works, but
we're new to this.
Yeah, so some context. Me and you are always having, these deep, long conversations, usually on like your pickup truck or mine. What's it like called? Like the back
or tailgate.
The tailgate, yeah. And I mean, we have these talks all the time, and they'll sometimes be like 3 hours long. And I think I've always like seeked those types of conversations that are just deep and like, why are we here? What's the meaning of all this? And I feel like me and you, we've had very similar, I guess, recent, journeys in our faith and like coming back to the Lord. And, growing up kind of near religion, um, and doing our own things, living in the world, and now coming back, I feel like, you got baptized the end of last year. I got baptized the beginning of this year. So it's like, it feels like we're like on the same path and wanting to have those same conversations. So yeah, when you said you wanted to do a podcast, like I remember when you and Brian started yours, and I had just met you guys, and I was like, I kind of wish I could have been a part of that podcast. So I mean, it's full circle, but yeah, I'm excited to just honestly bring the tailgate conversation to anyone and everyone, because we're confident in who God says we are, and not what the world thinks. So we're not going to hide anything in this podcast. We're going to be who we are, and talk about who God has made us to be.
Yeah, shout out Brian. I'm sure he will make it on here one of these days. When you were talking, I also just a cool name. It might only resonate with you and I, maybe not many people who would listen. So, but tailgate talks.
I like that,
because you drive a truck, I drive a truck, and we've had a lot of conversations on both of those trucks. But yeah, a little more context. A lot of those conversations that we have on our tailgates are about what God's done, what he's doing, what he's put on our heart in the moment, in the day. And so we don't want to script any of this. We don't want to have a preset, here's the questions I'm going to ask, here's what we're going to go through. We discussed maybe having like a broad general topic, which today we don't. And I'm okay with that.
That really scared you.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. But yeah, I don't want it to be scripted. I want it to be, what's God put on your heart today? What are you walking through today or yesterday? Or what challenges are you facing? How has he shown up in ways that you would never expect or you would have never guessed? Yeah, and so we just want to talk about that. And we think that can help not just each other, but anyone who might listen. And so that's the reason for just recording it. I feel like God has given us both some wisdom, especially for our age. And so I hope that some healing and some peace can come to anyone who might listen, and just through what God's done. Nothing that we've done, nothing that I've done that you've done, but things that God has done for us. And so that's my goal.
That's good.
Yeah.
What has God done for you today?
So much. When you ask a question like that, I think it's very loaded.
Yeah.
It gave me breath in my lungs. When I opened my eyes, he didn't have to even give me that. And who am I to deserve that? And so I don't want to take even the smallest blessing for granted, because it's his lungs, it's his air that fills my lungs. And he was so kind to give me that today. Really, the past couple of days I've been reflecting. I made a trip back home with some of our friends this past week, and just been sitting in a lot of the emotions that I felt when I was there. And yeah, how God has just been so kind. I'm sure throughout the course of this podcast, we'll get into a little bit of my story, but hasn't always been easy for me to go back to Asheville. And Asheville's where I'm from. I grew up on a farm in the north side of town, but hasn't always been easy for me to go back there, just for some family reasons. But a big hurricane went through there, and on my farm there's thousands of trees down, and my dad's living there by himself, and with my younger half sister who's 8 years old. And so my dad's essentially trying to do crazy amounts of work as a 60-year-old, and I just know it's a lot for him, and he's still working. And so I just want to, my intentions were to go up there and help manually, like manual labor stuff. And I did, and that was awesome and incredible. But really, some of the things that the Lord's doing in my dad's heart, and even in my heart, and getting to see that, I've been sitting in that a lot since I got back to Charleston from Asheville. And so that's really what I've kind of been processing with God. It's just, what he's up to.
Yeah. He's always up to something.
He's always up to something.
We have like the joke in our Bible study group that's like, I was talking to Dom last night, or I was talking to Brady last night. We've had so many conversations, and I remember one that was like about like how we classify something as a miracle. And we were talking about like, something a lot of people would just quickly write off as like, this is a tragedy, but like how much good can come from tragedies, and how like God can truly turn everything into good, make everything into good. So I don't know, like while you're saying that, that's what I was thinking about, is like, I remember when we were in Asheville, like I think you maybe told me this, but they were going to have like a movie night in the town. And like, when was the last time a town got together to like all watch a movie together? So that's cool.
Yeah. And another thing that I've kind of sat with too, and I think a lot of people can resonate with this, in being in Asheville for a week, and there was so much peace, and there was so much love, and obviously nature in Asheville is beautiful. And I grew up on a farm, and so I don't hear sirens whizzing by every night. And there's a grand piano in the front room that like I could play, and I could sit on the front porch and play my guitar, have quiet time, spend some great time with the Lord. But one thing that I've also wanted to check myself with in coming back is it doesn't stop there. It's not like I go to Asheville and it's a vacation, and then all of that peace and all of that love and joy and those sweet little moments that God was so kind to give me, they don't just stop because I left Asheville. And I think so many people, and I've been guilty of this, like live for that vacation, or live for the weekend where they know they can go live however they want to, and almost like dread returning back to the normalcy, the normal routine, the day-to-day life. And so, I've been sitting with that as well. Those moments that I think I was just more aware of in Asheville, it gave me a chance to break that routine and to see like, here's where God is showing up, and they don't have to stop just because I'm not in Asheville right now, and being aware of that. And really it was the people that were there that mattered even more than the environment. And yes, it's a great setting, like looking over the mountains and like this fresh cut pasture right in front of you. Like, it's beautiful, but like the people, and I can still call up any one of those people right now and have the same conversations I was having on that front porch right here. And I can still create that space for God to speak to me right here. Maybe it doesn't have as pretty of a backdrop, but that doesn't mean that it stops just because I'm not there.
Right.
And so carrying that peace and that love and that joy with me as I come back, as opposed to dreading getting back to the normal life, if that makes sense. Normal.
Yeah. How do you, I guess, how do you bring the experience of Asheville and the peace and the, I guess, just like intention behind every conversation. Like, how do you bring that so it isn't just a vacation experience? Like, if someone's listening who, you know, like maybe they feel joy on a vacation, but then they get back to their life and they get back into routine and distracted by work or bills and all this other stuff. Like, um, how do you bring that into your other part of your life?
I don't think there's a necessarily right or wrong answer. I can give you my perspective. And for me, my time in Asheville, I think the entire experience just made me hyper aware of the good. It made me hyper aware of kind comments that someone would make, or like even just when you step outside on the front porch first thing in the morning, you take a deep breath of like cold mountain air. Like I'm reminded that like that's God giving me that breath. Whereas here, you know, I step out on the front porch and maybe it's like humid, hot air, and maybe it doesn't trigger the same response in my brain, but it should. And so I think that hyper awareness of what is good for me is how I carry that with me. And that hyper awareness of good is just almost hyper awareness of what God's doing. It's a hyper awareness of how he's speaking through that person's gifts, like how kind they are to other people, how they treat other people. And so that hyper awareness for me, and I want that hyper awareness to be normal, you know, and I think through repetition and through practice, it does become normal. And I know for me, like when I am frustrated, it tends to be because I am looking for the bad, or I'm more aware of the bad in this certain situation than I am the good. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want to go to work and look for all these negative things that are happening. I want to show up to work and look for all these positive things.
Right.
And it's almost like my motto for life: speak life. And I want to look for life too. I want to seek life. I want to seek God in every moment, in every situation, not seeking death, because I can find something negative about everything.
Right.
I think I've told you my analogy. Like I can tell you, like my bank account, I don't have enough money for a house. I can't make a down payment on a house. And I can speak death about that. I can complain. I can be frustrated that I don't have enough money for that house that I want. Or I can say, dude, I love my Brookside dark chocolate. And so like, I'm so thankful that like God has given me the resources to buy that, and there's water, and like I have everything that I need. I have everything that I need, and I can speak life about my bank account, or I can speak death about it. Same thing with people. Like neither of us are married, but I can speak life about my wife, or I can speak death. Like when she's not around, I can complain about how she made me do the dishes last night, or I can speak about how great dinner was that she cooked.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like I'm given that option, not just in speaking, but in thinking about everything. And that thinking and that processing, like when it gets to your heart, that's where peace is found. Is in like, I see the good and I want to marinate on the good. I don't want to marinate on the bad. And so for me, that's how I hopefully transition all of that to here.
Let's go.
Let's go.
There was a little trick that I would do when I was running a lot, and I was running across the country, and it was like every day. I'm just going to subtly put that into the podcast.
Yeah. Brady ran across the United States of America. For everyone listening, he did. He might not brag about it, but I'll brag about it. But it was all God who did it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
No, seriously. It's like every day, and it's just little language, but like how many people are like, I have to go to practice today. And say that like you're going to a college to play a sport, and that's why you're at the college. You're like, another practice. yes.
which I was guilty of for
You know,
my entire college career. Keep going.
but if you switch it to I get to, like, even just having the ability, because I remember whenever I like get in that pity party of like, oh, I'm out here and I've been running for this many days and this many miles. It was like, who made me come out here and do this? Nobody. And so it's kind of what I was getting from what you're just saying. It's like you find the root of who this blessing or this gift that you're enjoying in your life, the breath in your lungs, this conversation, the the air, the fresh mountain air, the mountains, all that, it comes from God. And it's the same thing. Like, I get to run, or I get to go to this practice today because God has given me these abilities, these skills to go do this thing. And yeah, I think awareness too. Like, one way I think this last year as my faith has grown a lot, something that has helped me with awareness is prayer. Just like, so much of my life, I would just be eating so much throughout the day and like not even stop and say a prayer before I ate. And that's like one little example, but like, food keeps us alive,
Yeah.
praying for, I pray that this storm doesn't hit my city. I pray that, that my car works today. I pray, like, prayer can become, like you're talking, like almost like worked into your routine and lifestyle. And then all of a sudden you're like really aware, like sometimes I'll do this. I'll be like doing something, like today I did it with the horses at the farm, but like while I was out there, I just was like, thank you, God. Like it just, a quick little prayer of like, thank you.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah.
I get to hang out with horses today.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one definitely helps with awareness for me.
Do you think that?
Oh, you have a question for me? You wrote it down too? Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off speaking, so
No, that's okay.
So I write my questions.
By the way, so everyone knows, Dom is like the best questionnaire in the world. And he also has a really cool voice. So like, this podcast is probably going to be very successful because of his cool voice. Okay.
My voice
Proceed.
is a gift from God. I sing too, I play the guitar. We'll get there later. We were talking about kind of awareness of the positive things as opposed to the negative. Do you think that gratitude, you said prayer helps you shift kind of that perspective, but do you think particularly gratitude and praise really shift your heart and your mind back to the positive aspects?
I think when I'm, okay, I don't know if this will answer, but I think when I'm frustrated and maybe not feeling as much peace, it's because it's harder for me to feel gratitude about certain things. And I'll kind of, and like this year with my relationship with God, like I've really worked so much on like, God has given me so much grace, so I have to give myself grace. So with this, back to the whole gratitude thing, is like, I still, though, in that time when I'm not feeling gratitude, I will like go in that kind of cycle of, why aren't you feeling, you should be so grateful for what you have, and like, why aren't you feeling grateful? So yeah, I don't know if that like reverse, like, I don't know if that inversely answered that question.
Yeah. It actually gave me another question to ask you.
Oh man.
Do you think
this is fun, by the way? This is really cool.
Yeah. Do you think that feeling, you said you get frustrated, like when you don't feel gratitude, like I should be thankful for this. as I should be.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's shame associated with that.
Yep.
Do you think God is the one telling you that you should be?
No.
Okay. And so then how do you think you silence that? I should feel grateful. I should feel this way, but I don't. So that frustration that you feel, how do you think you silence that?
I think earlier in my life, like I have a negative thought or like something that I just, even if I wasn't walking with the Lord, I would identify as like that's a thought from the enemy or the devil or whatever, darkness. And I think I would like be really afraid to like, oh, I don't want to have that thought again. And then like I keep thinking about it. I think like being aware of like, okay, I just had that, but I'm going to identify who that was from. That was not from God. I feel like I'm getting a lot better at identifying it when other people say certain things and being like, dude, that's not from God. Like this little thing that you're saying or working through, like God does not condemn you. He's not a condemning father. He loves you through this. Like he's giving you grace. So sometimes I think it's, I don't know if this is the same for you, but like easier for me to see certain things like that in other people and quickly like identify it and be like, that's not from God. But with me, it can be, I think I need or should, but like becoming more aware of identifying it right away and being like, that's from the enemy. What can I focus on? And almost like when Jesus was like tempted and he fought the darkness, fought the enemy, it was scripture. Like, no, this is actually what God says. So doing that more.
Yeah.
This is a great question. You got another one?
I do.
Here we go, dude.
So it sounds like personal discernment. Like what it sounds like to me is like you've discerned that well in other people. You can tell like when someone says like, I feel bad because I'm not grateful for the things that I have. You can hear that and you can say, that's not from the Lord. Like that's shame and that's from the enemy. I should be feeling this way, but I don't. Like that's from the enemy. I think God of all people honors our feelings. Whether they're frustration, anger, sadness, grief, I think God honors those feelings. And so if God honors them, I think we should too. And my question off of what you just said is, it sounds like that might be the lesson that he's trying to teach you. Do you think that is the lesson, is like how to grow in that discernment in yourself? Like how, when this negative experience happens, can I identify it and identify that this external chaos is trying to challenge my internal peace that comes directly from the Lord? And how can I discern that is what's happening quicker?
Right.
Do you think that's
well, he's not I think of the scripture all about like God is not the author of confusion but peace. Like I've noticed some decisions I've made in my life recently where I felt a lot of anxiety after making those decisions. And I think in that, like I've grown a lot and learned, but temporarily lost some peace after those decisions. And I do think that's like almost confirmation when you make a decision and you feel peace, or you even feel peace before making a decision, like God is leading you down a path, like it will be a lot of peace.
I think one thing I've also been sitting with is peace from God. And this really started a few weeks ago in our Wednesday Bible study.
Shout out our squad.
Yeah, shout out Wednesday Bible study. But peace from God really is an internal, soul level, spirit level, heart level peace. And I do not believe that that is a fleeting feeling. I believe that I think it gets challenged, like I said, by external factors or even internal. If my brain starts racing, sometimes that can challenge my spirit's peace. But when making a decision externally, there's not always going to be external peace around that decision. And what I mean by that is, let's say I have to have a hard conversation with someone. There can be external chaos. There can be, I know this conversation, this conversation is not going to go I know this person's not going to respond in the way Jesus would. I'm going to pray about it and hopefully present the information in a way that Jesus would, but I don't think it's going to be received in that way. And let's say it's not. Like, that's external chaos. And even the decision to go have that conversation, I might not have external peace in making that decision. Same thing like with moving. I could move to Austin, Texas, or I can move to Cincinnati, Ohio. And I have to make a decision. And I could have friends and family in Austin, Texas. And, I've spent a lot of time down there. I've never been to Cincinnati. I don't know what it's like, but let's say there's a huge calling there for the Lord, something that I can use my gifts in, and I might not feel peace externally going there.
Right.
But I can still have my internal spirit level
That
peace.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people, when making big decisions in life, I don't want to use the fact that I don't have external peace as an excuse to not do what the Lord would have me do. Does that make sense? And I think some people can get the two confused, the external peace and internal peace.
And a word that comes to mind is like comfort, like just being very attached to your comfort zone. And like, I think it's a lot of times easier to stay in a situation, even if your peace is being challenged, just because to get out of the situation like takes courage. It takes risk and change and something new. But no, I see what you're saying there with internal peace, being able to, I guess, retain that peace and still go towards, and not everything Jesus is asking us to go do is easy. Like, and I don't think any of it is, sometimes loving someone is having a difficult conversation with them. And that doesn't, like, the first thing I think of, like, say, you're going to get a lot of peace, Brady. Go have a really difficult conversation with this person.
Yeah.
If you want some peace. But what do you think about, have you ever heard this? I mean, it was kind of cliche growing up and I'd hear it, but it's like, you pray for patience and God will give you a situation that will I guess, like, get that challenge you to be more patient, get that skill out of you. And I don't know when I started praying this, but I was like, God, I pray for peace in chaos. And it was almost like, it's almost like being like, all right, God, like, give me a chaotic situation, because if I can be peaceful in that situation, then why can't I have your peace in any situation?
Yeah.
What do you think about that, prayer?
I do think it's true. I think the fruits of the Spirit are like we never get there. It's part of sanctification, and that's something that I will be walking out for the rest of my days on this earth.
Real quick, for like non I don't know, Christians, religious people, sanctification, what does that mean? Because I feel like we get used to the kind of Christian. I heard someone call it Christianese once, but like the Christian terms.
Yeah. Sanctification to me is being refined, allowing my character to be refined day by day to be more like Jesus.
Okay.
Jesus is my ultimate identity. That is who I'm striving, not striving. That's who I want to be most like.
Yeah.
That is the way that he spoke, the way that he cared, the way that he listened, even internally, the way that he felt, the peace, the love, the joy that he felt inside of him. All of those things. Like sanctification is just being refined to be more like him. And so the fruits of the Spirit are constantly refined every day through new experiences, through new conversations, through new challenges. And I know God can, but very rarely have I seen someone pray for peace and it's just like instantly there's the peace. He'll shift your heart. He'll shift your thoughts. He's not just gonna whoop-bam, like nothing else changes except for your internal peace. Like he might say, well, think about it this way, and that might bring you the peace. Or he might say, like, it's really, like, if you look at it, it's not as bad as you're making it out to be, or you're not the victim. You actually have power over these feelings that you're feeling. Whatever it is, rarely is it just, well, bam, you have peace.
Right.
And I believe all the fruits of the Spirit are like that, because I don't think we max them out ever on our time here on earth. I believe Jesus is the only one who did that. And so I welcome the challenges. And I actually journaled a few days ago, like I was uncomfortable, and just how thankful I was for being uncomfortable, because I would be scared if I was comfortable. That means I don't want any more. I don't want any more of the fruits of the Spirit, of what God has for me tomorrow. If I was comfortable, like, this house, this, my character, like I'm comfortable with where I am. No, I want the challenges. I want the situations that challenge my patience, because then I know on the other side of that situation, I'm going to have even more patience. And I want the chaos. I want the external chaos, so that peace can get challenged, so it can get refined, and it can be stronger. And so, yes, I do agree with your statement of like praying for patience. God's going to give me situations that challenge that patience. And that was something that I prayed for so long, was for patience. And I still pray for it. And like I said, it's never something that I will be there and I'll have it entirely and completely. But God has been so kind to teach me more and more of it. And it's all been through situations that are challenging to me. Yeah. And so I'm thankful for those.
Light bulbs were like popping off when we were just talking. And we always do this, like in our conversations. Like this is why I was like, we don't need a topic, dude. Like we're just gonna talk and then ask each other so many questions. Um, so when you were talking about like being comfortable, I think that's really interesting. Like I I would be scared. I think you said I would be scared if I was comfortable. And I'm grateful being uncomfortable. Comfortable. Someone who says, I am comfortable. What do you think that actually means?
I do think so much of it is context, and like comfortability is not it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad feeling. Like when I lay down in my bed, I want to be comfortable. And like when it comes to my finances, like hopefully there's some security there. I don't know if comfort would be a great word, because trust me, God has made me very uncomfortable financially to teach me so much in terms of my finances. And I'm so thankful for those times that I was uncomfortable, because I wouldn't have the same view of finances now if I hadn't been there. And in the way that I was using the word comfortability, it did kind of have a negative connotation, and a negative connotation in the sense that I don't want to settle. I don't want to settle with this is enough for me. And that can pretty much be applied across the board. And I'm not going to change who I am to achieve things if God has them for me. What I mean by that is, even financially, it's not bad for me to want more finances. It's not a bad thing. It gets rocky when I'm willing to change who God says that I am to get those.
That's good. That's so good.
Wow. And so like the broad stroke across pretty much all facets is, I don't want to settle. I don't want to settle for the level of peace that I have now. I don't want to settle for the level of patience that I have, the level of love that I have, for my apartment that I have, for the car that I have, for the finances that I have. None of those things. I never want to settle. I don't want to say, well, this is good enough. You know, for the rest of my life, this is good enough. And I don't have to pay attention to this anymore. I never want to get there.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's the way that I was using comfortability, is settling and saying like, what I have is enough. And I know I will never entirely know God in my time here on this earth. I will never know every aspect of him, everything that he's doing, everything that he's done for me. And so I never want to settle. I never want to settle. I'll never know his love for me. I'll never know entirely how to respond and treat people how Jesus would. And so I never want to settle. And that, to me, is what comfortability is.
That's good. Like while you were, sometimes I think we ask each other questions really without, before even knowing what we think about it.
Yeah.
I was kind of like,
yeah. So what do you think?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking during what you were saying about some ideas, and I think we love stuff that feels good, you know, sex, drugs, you know, booze,
rock and roll,
EDM music, festivals. Like I used to do all that stuff, and it was so much fun. And it was, you know, it was all after a feeling, and the feeling was so fleeting. And usually, yeah, like every time the next morning, you know, you'd wake up feeling like crap and lots of shame. And anyways, like, I wonder if comfortability is like that dopamine chase where, you know, as I've gotten older, the most rewarding things I've chased after are the things that didn't come easy, the things that um, I faced a lot of challenges along the way. Actually, became grateful for those challenges. Um, it it almost you know how some people are like I guess ashamed of like certain scars they have, like physical scars.
Yeah.
Like my tattoos or my physical scars, like it's a piece of my journey and my
Mm,
story, and I'm you know, it's not something I'm ashamed of.
that's good.
And yeah, that was kind of a tangent, but I think like the the default is comfort, and the default is like just like, you know, what's I don't want to lose 40 pounds by doing a workout plan and eating healthy. I'd rather just, you know, take a pill.
Mm,
What's And I think you can take that example and apply it to so many facets of life,
yeah.
and like that comfortability, I think, has put a lot of us in a position where it's you know, we're pointing fingers, and we're like now not holding ourselves accountable for, like, I don't know if this is making sense, like the things we're capable of doing, you
Yeah.
know.
We talked about this a little bit, I believe, reading Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. But in there, he's talking about sex, and he said it's, and this isn't a direct quote, so don't direct quote me on this, paraphrasing. He was talking about sex, and he said it was one of the Christian virtues that is least practiced by Christians.
Mm.
And he went through the reasoning why. And one of the explanations that he gave was because we view it as impossible. And you and I both, I don't want to hide from it, but like we've both had sex in the past. We've both
A lot.
been there.
Me,
and,
at least. I don't know about you, but I'm just put you under the bus.
We've dipped our toes in that water, and now we are both single men who are walking that out every day, not having sex again before marriage.
Yeah.
And
Real quick, when did you make that decision? Like, I'm not gonna have sex until marriage.
it's been about 2 years.
That's so cool. Yeah, mine was I was the last time October of last year, but so I guess a year. It's been a year since I've had sex, and but beginning of this year is really when I was like, you know, I'm gonna wait till marriage.
Yeah. But C.S. Lewis was talking about it, and he was talking about that Christian virtue of chastity, I believe is the word that he used, is the least practice. And one of the reasons he gave was because our mind's view of it is like, that's impossible.
You can't do it.
Yeah. And I know for me, when I was still having sex, that was my thought. It was like, there's no way that I could ever give this up. There's no way. And the reason we view it as impossible is because we've never tried. And
that's so true.
And anything that you never try, yeah, it is impossible. If I never try to go mow the lawn's never going to get mowed. It's not like I just stumble upon, you know, purity. It's something that like God has given me, he's given you, he's given pretty much, I don't want to say everyone, but pretty much everyone, the authority that if you take that step, God's going to give you the strength. He's going to give you the strength to overcome that.
Yeah.
And it has to be intentional. It has to be like pure. It can't be like, well, like I'm going to quit having sex, and you just say it. But then when you get that text message at midnight on Friday night, like,
Right.
no, like my intention has to be there. And so like I have to remove myself from those situations, from those conversations, from even the way that I would speak, like some of those things. I know what's good. And I believe so many people do also know what's good. And they know that text, if they send it, what it's going to lead to.
Right.
Like I know the
You're
intention.
opening the door.
Yeah, I know the intention behind that text message. And so like I don't actually mean those words that I said, like I want to give up sex if I'm going to send that text message. If I actually meant that, like I know that this text message can't get sent. And so God gives you the strength. And in that moment, when that text message, you have it all typed out and there's like the little green arrow to send it, like you're going to feel a conviction. And that conviction is going to be like, I know where this is going to lead if I send this. And God gives you the strength right then to delete it and just be like, yeah, I'm laying down in bed. I'm going to get some sleep tonight. Like, and to lead it in a different direction that is good and that is pure and that is even loving in a better way. But
real quick, do you think, and you'll catch on to this, but do you think God doesn't want you to have sex?
God loves sex within the bounds of marriage.
Yeah. Because growing up, like I grew up, you grew up Catholic as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we both grew up Catholic, and it just always felt like so frowned upon. It just was like, I don't think I ever really went to one church service where it sounded like God created this gift of sex for us to all enjoy within the bounds of marriage. It almost seemed like this thing, like, we're not going to talk about it, like, keep it in your private life in marriage. And then it's like you see all the destruction around sex with couples, let's say, having sex with each other before marriage, other partners before marriage, which is considered sex outside of marriage. Anything outside of marriage between a man and a woman is considered sex outside of marriage. And then you have, a married couple later on, and they're having sex with partners that are not their husband or wife, and they're still doing sex outside of marriage. We talked about this. It's like that's when sex becomes absolutely chaos, and I've experienced it, and I don't know if you want.
It becomes your God.
Yeah,
is what it does. When I can go to church and I can sit there and I can worship the Lord and I can have my quiet time in the morning. I can spend time with Him. But you know, if you're a Christian, you know what God says about it outside of marriage, and you're actively choosing not to even try, which is me directly going against what He says, which means I'm valuing this thing more than I value God. And that might be harsh for people to hear, but that's really what convicted me. Was like, I haven't even really made an attempt to give this up, but I'm saying that I love the Lord. And I'm saying that, like, I value Him over everything on this earth, but I can't even make an attempt, a genuine attempt to stop this.
Right.
And so what I noticed through that, and when I did make that attempt, and He has been so kind as to bless me with the words to say to even women that are loving and gentle and careful, without leading down that road. One of the things that I noticed in the attempt is like everything that I was doing was for sex.
Yeah.
And like from the clothes that I would wear, the way that I would speak, the way that my hair was done, the music that I would listen to, like even just the thoughts that I would have, everything revolved around that, because it was one of the things, like sex, money, there's many things that like I have surrendered to God that previously in my life I didn't. But when it comes to sex, I realized that the way that I would speak to even you, like it had to be cool enough that if there was a girl listening, like she thought I was cool,
Mm,
because like
mm,
maybe one day that we wind up at the same bar on a Friday night and we go home together, and like, so that's always in the back of my head.
mm,
And everything that I did was for that.
mm,
And then when it came to like work, everything that I did was for more money, was for like more social status, for more power, for more authority, like here on earth. Um, and so like in my attempt to stop, to really realign my priorities and put God first, like I saw that, dude, the clothes that I wear, the way that I talk to everyone, like has that intention at the back of it.
mm,
And the intention wasn't to show you God.
mm.
And like now when that is the intention, everything is so pure.
Right.
It's so pure. And it all starts with like, I know if I say these words, where it's going to lead, like where it sends your brain. I had to sit there and think about it. If I say these words, I know how you feel about it. I know what
Right.
it's going to make you
Right.
think. But back to the initial conversation, like we view things as impossible, and we've never even tried them.
Mm,
Like I've never tried. I don't remember your initial question, but like things with God are not impossible.
mm-hmm,
Giving up sex is not impossible.
mm-hmm.
What it takes is a shift of my heart. It takes an attempt, and through that attempt, you see, like with God, like this is completely possible.
Right.
It is completely possible to give this thing up. I quit drinking like around the same time too, and that was something that I never thought I would give up, but I felt convicted to do that, to be authentically who God says that I am. That was a hindrance on my life, and I didn't have a healthy relationship with alcohol. I think you can, but for me, I knew it was something that I needed to get rid of, and I felt convicted of that, and thought it was something I would never be able to give up, and I haven't had a sip since. And it's all God. It is
Right. Right.
all
Yeah.
God, and it all starts with just that authentic, genuine attempt. And the attempt even starts at a deeper level and saying like, God, I know that my heart values this thing more than you. Like I know that it does, and I need your help to shift my heart
Mm,
wherever it needs to go so that you can become number one in my life.
mm,
Like wherever my heart needs to move, I need your help doing it. Because those were my initial prayers. And I'm not saying that works for everybody, or like as if you pray that prayer, like your drug addiction's gone. I'm not saying that by any means, but it starts with that heart posture
mm-hmm.
of like, God, this is hard.
Right.
And I know that it doesn't align with your will for my life. And so I need your help. I need your help. And really it comes from a place of humility. It's like, I can't do this on my own.
Yeah.
I can't, because like Dom trying to give up sex on my own, like would never happened.
Dude, that's exactly how I feel about it. Like, I'm honestly shocked. Oh man, I haven't had a crazy amount of temptation with it, I'll say, but I'm like shocked at how I went into it thinking like, God, there's no way I'll be able to do this. And then, I tried it for like a month, tried it for 2 months, and then it's like, oh, I'm doing it. Like, okay, like I can stand firm in this. The thing that, okay, I hate rules. I've always hated rules. If it was God telling Dom or Brady, like, you can't have sex until marriage, son, that's it. You can't. I don't like that rule. But to me, what I've seen is like, no, like, my son, this is to protect you. This design that I have, just like, if you're curious about this, you're not Christian, and you look up statistics online of marriages where, I think I heard this stat recently. It was like, we need fact checkers already for the podcast. I'm throwing out stats. This is dangerous.
This is paraphrasing.
Yeah,
This is not
paraphrasing.
100% accurate.
Yeah. Here we go. It was something around less than 1% of Christian married couples that prayed together every night got divorced. Less than 1%. Mm-hmm. So something within the marriage of prayer, something within the marriage of sacrament, and like, I mean, you could even look at it like this. This is how I've looked at it as well. Is like, you might think you know a person that you're planning on marrying, and then after a year of marriage, all of a sudden you learn something about them that you did not know or foresee. I'm not wishing that upon anyone, but when you go into dating to marry and you say to your partner, look, we're not going to have sex until we get married, you're not going to, I feel like sex can blur some things within a relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it can, if there's red flags where it's like, oh boy, you need to get out, sex can blur that. And it also shows if you and that partner are both, I guess, sacrificing sex, you are keeping that commitment. It shows that you and your partner can keep a commitment before the biggest commitment you'll ever make in your whole life. And if someone's not willing to do that, I mean, marriage is only going to be commitment after commitment after commitment. Like,
I think you saying that, it shows that each half of the marriage values God more than the other individual. And I think that's the most important. Not valuing your spouse or your significant other more than God. And
which is so against the world and the culture.
Yeah. It is. And like, God has given me eyes, and I pray that everyone can have these eyes as well, that me loving God most allows me to love my significant other or wife most as well. Like, I have to love God most, and that will allow me to love my future wife as best as I can. And I can't get those reversed. I cannot, that love that I give to my wife cannot be more important than the love that I give to God and that God gives to me. That gives me all of those fruits of the Spirit that then I can shower my wife with.
Right. It's an overflow, and it's actually going to serve her better if you serve him before her. But yeah, I feel like the world doesn't want that. It's like, serve me first before anyone else.
Yeah. One thing I did.
Do you write another question?
I did, but this was before we started talking about sex. You were talking about things you chased in the world. And the question that I wrote down is, are the most rewarding things that you've chased after things that will last forever? Because you said you've chased sex, you've chased money, you've chased businesses, power, authority, notoriety, fame. And those all left you empty. They left you not full. They left you searching for more. But do the things that last forever, again, they don't make you feel comfortable, but more full, more satisfied when I know that I have more peace, when I know that I have more patience, when I know that I have more love, when I know that I have more joy.
Yeah.
Things that on the other side of this earth, those things will also be with me. Does that feel more rewarding, or is that where you made that transition in your life when you started to chase those things as opposed to the things that are offered here, like freely offered?
It's a good
on the
question. So I struggled with depression for a long time. Probably started feeling that when I was a freshman in college. I want to say it was my second semester, and I just yeah, like I had this week where like I could barely get out of bed, and I was so confused to what was happening, and I ended up just going back home, and um, that was kind of the start of that. And I think a lot of that was due to I smoked a lot of weed in high school. In college, I was drinking profusely. Like I thought I drank a lot in high school, and then I went to the University of Arizona, and it was like yeah, I don't know, minor league straight to the World Series MLB reference. Dom is a baseball man.
Yeah, I played college baseball
At Tennessee. Go Vols. Did I say it right?
Go Vols.
Go Vols.
We won the Natty this past year.
Yeah, Go Vols, Tennessee. The orange and white. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it probably was all the booze. I'm in college, and I, the biggest lie, that the world told me was that the minute I was alone and I was in college, and my parents, they're driving back to California. I'm on my own. Freedom. Like, this is what freedom is. And I thought for so long that I knew what I was doing and that I knew best, and that my parents don't know what they're talking about. I'm not drinking that much, and getting blacked out. And I ended up going to the hospital one time from drinking. I've told you many times that just from doing drugs, I almost got stabbed once. I've had so many experiences where I was out of control, and I thought I had life in control. And there were many times where I tried to get through it without family, without faith. And I still have bits of stubbornness, but I was such a stubborn person, and I wore that like it was something I was proud of. Like, I'm stubborn. You can't tell me what to do. It helped me in business, and I started a company when I was 20, and we had a lot of success, but that can help you in business, but that doesn't help you in relationships. That doesn't help you with your faith. That doesn't help you with like peace. And that stubbornness, it just left me very empty. And I ironically cared. I tailored everything I did for the people around me. So while I said, you can't tell me what to do, I would like listen and be like, oh, okay. When I go to this party, I'll be like this and talk like this. And then I'm in an academic honorary, and I'm going to like put on a different persona and like just wear all these different hats, which is exhausting. But there was a moment that I had where, again, out of this stubbornness, like I was not just going to pray to God if I didn't believe it. I had to believe it in my, so how it happened for me was first in my mind that Jesus really was the Son of God, came down to earth, like was incarnate of the Virgin Mary, meaning she didn't have sex. He's just like born, in her stomach. All of a sudden, she's pregnant. He lives this just miraculous life where his teachings are amassing these just massive crowds of thousands of people. He's healing people. He's walking on water. He's stopping storms. He's bringing Lazarus back from the dead. He's eventually killed after living a perfect life. He goes up onto a cross. He's crucified, and after 3 days, he rises again. And it took me believing that in my mind, and then it went to my heart, and I wouldn't have done I wouldn't have like I think it would be unfair for me to answer your question without saying all of that, because I do think like Christianity is trendy right now, and there's a lot of people who actually don't believe in this stuff, but they're just saying they're Christian because they're again doing what I used to do, where it's like tailoring to what other people think. So like, oh, like no, now it's like cool to be Christian. So if I say I'm Christian, then like I don't know, like these people are gonna like me or whatnot. And like like I I am who I am, and I am who God says I am. So if you don't believe in God and you're like, Brady, you suck, and I think your hair looks weird, and I don't know, gummy bears aren't tasty, like, that could hurt my feelings. But no, it's like I know what God says about me. So it's changed my whole standard of how I look at life and how I truly care about what other people think. Um, we talked about this, and I've like really gone on so many tangents here, but we talked in our Bible study today about, it's different when it's like, I know you believe in what I believe in, and I know you're learning so much about your faith. And like when you call me out on things, I'm going to listen. I'm not going to be like, all right, Dom, like, no, like if anything, it's just giving me more discernment to care who is this, who is the person criticizing me, because I know God loves me, and if I can understand what God's character is, and what God says about me, and that he would send his son to die for me and to die for you, to die for everyone listening to this. Like, why did I deserve that? Why do you deserve that? Like, this is a love that truly it I don't think, like it's still even hard for me to wrap my head around that type of love, that type of sacrifice. When he's this and this whole process of me coming back to my faith, like just learning about, he's up on the cross and he's saying, forgive them, Father, for they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's paraphrase, but along those lines. And it's like he's suffering one of the worst deaths in human history, and he's asking for us to be forgiven. That is love. And I think I was chasing love, happiness, right? The pursuit of happiness. I smoked weed the first time when I was 16 to Pursuit of Happiness by Kid Cudi. It's like that's what I was after, the dopamine rush, the
Great
happiness, the social clubs, the approval from others. And I'm God approved now, and that's like all we need. That's literally all we need. Like that is sufficient. I mean, like what about the Romans? This verse, like honestly, so this year was for people listening, Dom already knows this, but this year was the first year I ever cracked open a Bible. And it's so funny how we all will say, I know that book's just a load of crap and it was written thousands of years ago. And, we'll say all this stuff without reading a page. And like that book has transformed my life this year. And one of the verses, I have it up somewhere in my house over here. It's, I think it's the book of Romans, but it's, if God is for us, who can be against us? And it's like, God's on your side. Who cares what the person who hates God and hates the world and hates gummy bears, who cares what they say?
Yeah.
Who could hate a gummy bear, Tom? I'm gonna have some.
Um,
You wrote another question.
well, this is more of a statement, and
Okay.
I just kind of wanted to summarize kind of what you were saying, which was so good, by the way. So the question I asked before was, were the most rewarding things that you've chased after things that will last forever? And I believe in your response, and tell me if this is correct. You said that understanding more of God's love for you automatically reprioritize what you were chasing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It makes it. Here's good. If you think something is missing, you're gonna try to fill your life up with whatever's missing. I found what was missing, and now I'm not gonna fill myself up with the drugs, the sex, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know that was filling the hole of Brady, you're not loved.
Yeah. I think if we were going to cut this into 2 episodes, this would be the time to do it. And so if someone's editing this and wants to make another episode, cut right now.